Well, guys, it was a tough night for veterans Anthony Lionheart Smith and Robbie Lawler last night. Nick and I are chatting about that and where they go from here right now. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel. So, Nick, last night was a tough night for the veterans Anthony Lionheart Smith and Robbie Lawler, huh?
Yeah. It was tough to see them both take L's last night, but still put on some great performances.
Yeah, and I thought it was a pretty good fight night co-main and main event.
Yeah. That's what everybody was saying, like, oh, this card seems a little weak. It was pretty top-heavy, I'll say that, but the top two fights, how can you not be excited for Neil Magny and Robbie Lawler sharing the cage? And Anthony Smith is always must-see fight TV, and his new opponent, I mean, that guy was just a stud.
Yeah, I think the story here, more so than Lionheart having a tough outing, was that light heavyweight, as if they needed a new name to throw into the mix in what's now becoming a very exciting division. They got one last night in Aleksandar Rakić. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name.
Rakić or Rakić. Yeah. Guy's a stud. Looks like $1 million. Even has some good tattoos, which is a bit of a rarity in MMA. But I said this to you earlier, and I fully believe it. The light heavyweight division has been a little bit boring and a little bit top heavy and lacking contenders for a while now. And there's been some great names, but they've been in the game so long that we didn't have a lot of like exchanges with new names coming in and stuff. I think come 2021, after all the dust settles and all these new matchups get made, it's going to be one of the most exciting divisions for the year.
Absolutely. We need to let the dust settle on who the champion actually is.
Right.
Is it going to be Reyes or Blachowicz? And then who's the number 1 through 3 top contenders? Is it Rakić? Does Rumble Johnson come back into the mix?
Does Gustafsson drop back down? I would like to see Gus drop back down. I mean, just off the top of our head, Rakić, Johnny Walker's always one fight away from being a contender again.
Sure.
And I think he does present a lot of fun for the division, and he's going to be a problem for a lot of people, even though he didn't win his last fight and he didn't look so great, but he's going to look great in the future. Rakić is a monster. And you have like the vets, Glover Teixeira and
Ozdemir.
Yeah.
So this Rakić, I was looking at his record last night. Aside from the fact that he lost his very first MMA fight ever, his only other loss is to Volkan Ozdemir, and that was a split decision loss. Wow. So, the first fight, you don't know what happened there. Years ago in a small promotion, and you lost, but that kind of is what it is. But aside from that, his only other loss is a split decision loss to a guy that everybody was touting as a major contender. So I think the story last night, speaking on the fight that took place between him and Lionheart, was it was the tale of the leg kicks and the ground and pound.
Yeah.
So he did what he needed to do. I mean, the leg kicks were very well timed, very well placed. He throws those with a lot of power.
Yeah.
He throws those, as we talked about a couple of episodes ago, how, the people don't see the leg kick as like a really damaging move that can potentially finish a fight. But it really, truly is. I mean, if you just wear on somebody's leg, and you know how tough Anthony Lionheart Smith is, and to see him literally almost concede and fall to the ground because of these devastating leg kicks really speaks to the power that Rakić throws when he throws those kicks. So I think ultimately those devastating leg kicks and then his ability to get on top and stay on top with some active and effective ground and pound is what got him the decision nod.
Yeah, and you said almost took him down. I will say, I'll go one step further and say that those first round leg kicks did put him on the ground. Me and you looked at each other and said, "What just happened? Did he tear his ACL? Is this a Sean O'Malley type of situation where he's lost all feeling in his leg?" They finished out the round pretty much. I guess it was probably 3 or 4 minutes of the round on the ground, and it looked like he couldn't get up. And then he walked back to his corner just fine. And we were like, wait, I thought he damn sure, tore his ACL and would at least walk away with a limp. He didn't have a limp or anything like that. But I do think those things paid dividends for Rakić, and I'm sure Anthony Smith is feeling them today.
Absolutely. You know, and that just speaks to how tough Anthony Smith really is. He doesn't have the name Lionheart for nothing.
Right.
But I thought exactly what you said at the end of the first round. I said it's going to be really interesting to see if Anthony can stand up, because it almost looked like he was trying to engage and keep the fight on the ground and hope to maybe catch a submission or get a reversal and take the mount position or something like that. Anything but have to get back up and re-engage on the feet.
Right.
So that kind of led me to believe that, you know, a guy who's rough and tumble and willing to throw down doesn't want to stand up. Maybe he's not capable of standing up. He surprised me by his ability to get back up. I would be surprised if you don't see it come out in the next couple of days that he did sustain some type of leg injury, because it's just hard to imagine that he didn't, looking at all those kicks that he took. But Rakić did the right thing once he got him down. You know, he did the appropriate amount of ground and pound in order to not overextend and get the position reversed on you, but still do enough to be effective, continue to win points, continue to win rounds, and stay busy. But I think it was a solid all-around performance from him. He looked good on the feet against a guy, Lionheart, who everybody knows is a tough guy to stand and bang with.
Absolutely.
And then he looked very good in the ground and pound exchanges. And what a lot of people don't really think when you think of Anthony Lionheart Smith is good grappling, but he's actually a very high-level jiu-jitsu black belt.
Right.
So for him to be on the ground and not able to reverse position and you know, Rakić was using his hips well to control, and so definitely an excellent all-around performance by Rakić last night. And I think his name is in the mix now for 205 contenders.
Absolutely. And Anthony Smith, I think it benefited him after the first couple rounds that it was a three-round fight, because if it would have kept going, I think it could have been stopped. Lionheart's so tough, it's hard to get him out of there. But I think if Rakić had a couple more rounds, it might have gotten a little bit dicey for him. Anthony Smith, you know, you make a good point with, we thought he might be trying to get to the ground because you figured with his leg being torn up that he had a better chance of winning through grappling. I think, you know, since he was able to walk just fine, he was just worried about taking any more damage on that leg. And maybe, I don't know if this is the case or not, but maybe he's not the most, you know, skilled fighter in an unorthodox stance. If he's a southpaw, I don't know if standing orthodox worked for him, and he'd rather just be on the ground. And I don't know, but I know
that's a good point.
Yeah, I don't think he wanted to switch stances and then maybe get knocked out or something like that. Because if you're a fighter, if you guys fight, go do your shadow boxing or your training or whatever. Hit a bag in your stance that you feel comfortable in, and then the next round stand the other way. You're gonna look like an amateur, and if you don't train it all the time, I mean, there's a reason Floyd Mayweather doesn't ever switch stances.
Right.
It's because it's very hard. If it takes you 10 years to become a master at striking in your position, it takes another 10 to figure it out on the other way.
Exactly. And with Floyd, he doesn't have to worry about getting ripped in the leg with good leg kicks. So, you know, for MMA fighters, and a lot of people brush over that. They're like, oh, he's getting kicked in the, you know, he's like us, we're southpaws. So he's a southpaw, he's getting kicked in the right leg. So he's going to put that right leg in the back and switch to the left. People are just like, okay, he's tucked that leg away, he's hiding. But he's hiding that leg, rather. But what they don't really account for is the fact that he's at a serious disadvantage if he's standing in that position and he's not familiar with exchanging in that position. And some guys really are, like Sean O'Malley. I was like, okay, he's got to tuck that front leg back. He's a very comfortable striker on his feet. He's going to be able to still exchange. And, you know, most of the time he is, but, you know, Cheeto is just too much for him. But it may be that Lionheart is not comfortable in that switch stance, and he is a black belt. So he said, maybe my best chance, given the fact that I've just sustained a lot of leg damage, is to try to win this fight via grappling. So who knows?
Yeah, and Rakić, I mean, this guy could be a problem. You know, we still have to see some more fights and see what he does at light heavyweight, but he was ripped to shreds on Fight Night. So I'm assuming he's built more like, I mean, he was significantly bigger than Anthony Smith, and Anthony Smith is a big guy.
He's a huge guy.
So I could see him later on in his career potentially going up to heavyweight, but right now he has to prove himself a little bit at light heavyweight. But
he's only 28 years old,
right?
Too. So when we know at the higher weight classes, heavyweight, light heavyweight, age is, you know, you hit your prime at a later age, you know, mid 30s. So he's still potentially 6-7 years away from his prime. Yeah. So I think we're going to see a fun up and coming 205 star.
Yeah, and he's
Rakić.
super crisp with his kickboxing and Muay Thai style fighting. Those you don't learn those leg kicks just off the street. You've put a lot of work in. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do with him next. I think there's a lot of fun matchups to be made at light heavyweight, and like you said, it's once we figure out who the champ is, we'll be able to seed up those top contenders in order and kind of figure out who's going to get the crack at the title.
And 205's fun. 205 is fun again.
It's athletic body types that have one punch knockout power for the most part.
Right. Absolutely.
So I do think I think it's always been one of the most exciting divisions. It's kind of been in a lull not ever since John Jones got the title, but after a few years, after 5-6 years, you're like, Jesus Christ, can we just get some new faces or new champs in there? John vacates the title. Now we have a whole new lineup of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so moving to another veteran who suffered a tough loss last night, we have Ruthless Robbie. Yeah. Also must-watch TV. I don't care what his record is and how he's been performing in the last several fights. But that said, he is on a 4-fight skid, and he's 1-5 in his last 6.
Yeah.
He's also 38 years of age. Have we seen the end of Robbie Lawler? Is Robbie almost done competing, at least in the UFC, in your estimation?
It's hard to say that he's going to get another great contract with the UFC after that kind of a record. But if anyone deserves it after 1-5 in their last 6, it's Robbie Lawler. He's kind of similar to the Chris Weidman situation. Yeah. If he can get out there and win his next one, then I think maybe they'll keep him around. But if he keeps losing, it's not looking great. He's literally probably too tough for his own good.
Seriously.
He took a beating, and I think Neil Magny outstruck him by over 100 strikes, significant.
Yeah, I think it was like 117-21 or something. Yeah. So it was like right at that 100 strike differential. I mean, it was a dominating performance.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly competitive. Robbie Lawler's as tough as nails, and there's very few fighters on the UFC roster or in MMA in general that you can point to and say they've had multiple fights where they're some of the most incredible fights of all time. Robbie Lawler is in that category. I mean, you go back to Rory McDonald, and you go back to the early 2000s, some of his fights are incredible. So, he broke Rory McDonald's spirit. Like he literally made him almost want to give up. And Rory's just like him. He's just as tough, but Rory literally shut down.
Yeah.
That was like that was an epic night for MMA fans because you watched a top level contender fighting the highest level fighter, and he just crumbled at one point. And it wasn't through like weakness or anything. It was just his body shut down. That was a crazy fight.
It really was. And I think I'm going to go ahead and say that I'd like to see Robbie if he's going to continue fighting, I'd like to see him in a different organization, namely probably Bellator. Like I said, he's 1-5 in the last 6. The only one that he won was against Cowboy. That was a decision. Cowboy's also up there in age. Cowboy also is not a natural 170-pound fighter, so he's spent most of his career at 155. I think that there's some more compelling matchups for Robbie. Benson Henderson comes to mind. I don't know that he would necessarily be able to surmount the ranks and get a fight with Lima. But I think that Bellator, if he's going to do another 3 to 5 fights before Robbie Lawler hangs it up, that they would be better had in Bellator than they would in the UFC. Do you agree with that?
If you stick him anywhere, you're going to have great fights, and he's going to compete in all of them. But yeah, I just think there's certain guys, and after a while, once they've climbed to the top, he's been at the top. He's been known as the baddest dude on the planet. It's hard to get back up and on that bike and ride again. So yeah, I think, in my opinion, Robbie Lawler has already cemented himself as one of the greats.
First ballot Hall of Famer.
He'll be a Hall of Famer for sure, and he deserves it. And I won't. You could tell me he's 1-5 in his last 6 fights. Great, okay, I believe you. But I also that's not the Robbie Lawler I think about when I think about true legends of the sport. Robbie Lawler is still a former champion. When you discuss Robbie Lawler, the first thing that comes out of your mouth, former champion, one of the greats.
Absolutely.
All good things. He's a monster. He deserves to, ride off into the sunset if he wants. He's one of those guys that is too tough for his own good. And if he goes to Bellator, I'm sure he'll win some. He might lose some, but either way, we as MMA fans, we can't thank him enough for the work he's put in.
Seriously, absolutely.
But let's not give him all of the time on that one, because
he did lose the fight.
Neil Magny is, I mean, on a tear. 3 fights. He's won 3 fights this year. He said after the fight he wants another one. There's plenty of months left in this year. Let's get me in there one more time. I think the UFC will do that. They love active fighters, especially guys that don't take a lot of damage, so they don't feel bad about sticking a guy in there that's, kind of like who was it that got knocked out and then 2 months later he was in there again? It was Rosenstrike. Rosenstrike got knocked out, and it didn't look good. 2 months later, he came back, and he was actually able to get the victory. But sometimes they're a little bit skittish on that. But Neil Magny didn't take any damage. He looked really good. And he's one of those guys, too, that's been in there for so long, but this is clearly a title run that he's on.
Yeah, Neil Magny was always one of those guys. He wins some, he loses some. He's kind of a gatekeeper.
But nobody wants to fight him.
But nobody wants to fight him. But now he's strung together 3 wins in a row, all in the same calendar year, and he wants a 4th. So, 170 is a bit log-jammed. You have Usman at the top. You have Covington and Woodley competing. Leon Edwards is in the mix there somewhere. Jorge Masvidal has a case for a rematch, even though it wasn't super competitive. He took the fight on, 6 days notice. So you do have a little bit of a logjam at the top there. But I think Neil Magny is 1 or 2 good wins away from people starting to throw his name in the mix for who gets a shot at the belt.
For sure. And I think he's ranked in the teens, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, maybe if they're trying to give him a fight, and I know they're eager to get Khamzat Chimaev in there, and we always bring him up because he's so entertaining now.
How could you not?
I mean, what if we saw Neil Magny versus Khamzat Chimaev? That would be a killer fight. And I don't think it would be an easy night out for either guy.
No, I don't think it would. I think Neil Magny poses a lot of threats and would be a tough puzzle for Chimaev to crack. He's rangy. He's got good striking.
Yeah.
He's good with the, you saw his grappling defense last night, looked very good. And so I think that that I love that fight. Yeah, it comes out Chimaev and Neil Magny. And then, if he wins that fight, maybe give him a top 5 guy and see how he performs there. But Neil Magny's definitely trying to string together a run here. No question about that.
Absolutely. And I would love to see him get back in the top 5 mix and see what happens when he gets with those top contenders at 170.
Absolutely. And, Leon Edwards is going to have to get his crowd. Gilbert Burns too. I forgot to mention him a second ago.
Yeah.
But Leon Edwards, everybody was talking about him after that great win against Rafael dos Anjos and the 3-piece and the soda that took place, and I think that was in England. And he's kind of, because there's been so much excitement at 170 with Covington and Burns and Jorge. It's like, where does Leon fit into the mix? Maybe you put together, if Magny can get past Chimaev, maybe a Leon Edwards Neil Magny fight. That'd be a great one to see.
Yeah, if they're gonna make Leon sit around much longer, he's obviously probably going to fight just so he can stay relevant, because that's what happens. Even if you have been on a tear like Leon's been on, but there's just people in front of you, and for crazy reasons. Gilbert Burns should have gotten the title, or the title shot. COVID gets in the way, so they had to slide Masvidal in.
Right.
And that makes sense. Nobody's angry that they did that, but and he also saved the card on that one in Abu Dhabi. But Leon at some point is going to need to fight again, because we just need to be reminded as fans. I do think that he's a problem for everybody in that division. I don't see him. I don't see him running through the top 3 or top 5 guys, but I think he might have to prove himself one more time.
It shows you how fast the MMA news cycles and relevancy passes you by, because this time last year, everybody was talking about Leon Edwards has to get the shot at the title. There's nobody besides Leon Edwards that needs the shot at the title.
Right.
And then it's like, Leon who? Mm-hmm. What about Gilbert Burns? What about Jorge Masvidal? What about Colby Covington? Mm-hmm. So it really does. You have some guys like Stipe can sit out and say, I want my rematch and demand it, and because of his clout and the fact that he's the champ, things work out in their favor. And then sometimes you can say, I deserve it and I'm not doing anything until I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And then something exciting happens over here and everybody ran over here now.
Right.
And you kind of got left in the dust. So it really is interesting. But I think you're right. I think Leon Edwards is going to have to prove himself one more time, and he's going to have to do it in a dominating fashion. And maybe they make that fight against Neil Magny if he can get past his next opponent, which Nick has proposed is Khamzat Chimaev.
And if I can add one more, I need to go on the internet and figure this out. But I'm quite confident in saying that they haven't. But if and I'm always eager to throw out Khamzat's name because I think he's so cool for the sport. But what if Neil Magny wants to fight somebody in front of him? Maybe a Wonder Boy Thompson. I can't remember if they fought. That would be a striking clinic because Neil's crisp, and Wonder Boy's arguably the best kickboxing striker in the game. So
yeah, I like that.
There's a lot of fun matchups at 170. So.
Absolutely, so Neil Magny threw himself right back into the mix with that win last night. Well, guys, so Neil Magny had a great night.
Sure did.
Aleksandar Rakić is a rising star in 205. Let us know in the comments who you'd like to see them fight next. And again, as always, please like, comment, subscribe, and check us out where you listen to podcasts. Thanks for watching.